Just like when you're that guy at work who really screwed up, but everyone's kind of being cool about it because, it's a little awkward. It's Feed Your Please, a heinous trip at Warp 5. My name is Joseph.
And I also am known to forget my cell phone from time to time. Your co-host, Peter.
Peter, we've done our shilling, we've done our new Trek discussion. Is there anything you want to talk about before we get into this episode?
I think we should go back to the BitLocker. There's now been...
Yes!
First, let's publicly shame. There was, in fact, someone out there who knew the star date for fucking Undiscovered Country. I don't know if we should name them or not, or let them...
We will allow their shame to remain entirely on the Feed Your Please Trauma Support Group, which you should join. As a pitch. I know, it's Facebook, and Facebook is where your cringe aunts and uncles unload their ice-cold political takes, and where your sister posts pictures of your niece. But it's also where you can have the only good Star Trek conversation to be had on the internet. So you should join. It's available through our Feed Your Please Facebook page. You can always just hit me up at feedyourplease@gmail.com if you somehow need help to join. But seriously, join. You can see who it is who outed themselves for knowing the exact star date from Star Trek VI, which even I, a giant fan of Star Trek VI, did not know. So that guy, he's a bigger loser than me.
All right, so here we go back to the old BitLocker.
All right, let's try it. Let's see if we can get at least one of these.
All about trivia, Star Trek. This is original series. You can play along at home and see if you guys can beat Joe. Last time that green card was the super hard fuck you. That was the star date for Kirk's final entry. This time the green entry. Are you ready for this?
Ready.
Starfleet General Order Number 1 is also known as...
the Prime Directive. How perfect for our episode.
Oh, yeah, it is. Hey, look at that.
My goodness.
I didn't mean for it to play into that.
No, yeah, fuck you.
You get to keep going now.
Yeah, I do. I understand.
Finish this quote from Kirk. The best defense is a strong offense, and I intend to start blank. This is from the Empath.
A good defense is a strong offense. And I plan to go on offense?
No, I plan to start offending right now. That's some real boomer shit for you.
Yeah, okay. Plan to start offending. That's a much better line. Let's do the rest of them, though. I know I failed, but let's do the rest of the card.
That's a good one. You should get that tattooed on your arm. You're good
plan to start offending. I do that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I instigate.
This is going to be from the naked time. What is an intermix formula?
A naked time. So this was the one where they all got drunk on the polywater nonsense, and I don't know, what is it?
I'm sorry. There's a paragraph answer for this. If you've never heard all about trivia, it's for a good reason. This is terrible. Here we go. A mathematical determination of the manner in which matter and antimatter will be brought together to produce the energy required for warp space. Spock and Scotty come up with a new formula based on a theoretical relationship between time and antimatter.
The original fucking technobabble. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
More on this card?
Until Spock enlightens him, how does Kirk assume that the Vulcans choose their mates? This is from Amok Time.
I think he says the way anyone else would.
He says logically.
Logically. No, okay, yeah. That makes sense. It was some pithy line, right? Like he's got a little... I can even see the scene where he's got that little stupid grin on his face. I was like, oh,
that's interesting that it's that the name of that episode was Amok Time because it was Spock Amok was the Strange New Worlds one that focused on his relationship.
And it actually did have that scene at the beginning that was the homage to the Amok Time, American Gladiators fight with
where he's fighting himself.
Where he's fighting the Vulcan version of himself while the human version of himself.
And
he even did the music.
Yeah. Here's the last one. What battle took place in a region of space under the dispute between the Klingon Empire and the United Federation of Planets? This is, again, Trouble of Tribbles. They go deep with Trouble of Tribbles.
The battle?
Yep. I'll give you a hint. It happened in 2242.
Battle of Axanar?
Battle of Don 25.
Okay.
If you got
Yeah.
all those questions right, give yourself a pat on the back and then go in the mirror and watch yourself cry.
If you got all those right, you may need a device to pat yourself on the back because I'm going to presume that you're a neckbeard that puts all others to shame.
Yeah. But we're happy to have you as
Yeah, we are.
we
We
do
are,
our
but I
own
am
little
going to make
trek.
fun of you.
As we trek towards season 2, episode 8, The Communicator. This one came out November 13th, 2002. Story by Rick Berman and Bran Braga. Teleplay by Andre Boramis and directed by James Conter.
The low expectations being what they are, like I'm somewhat relieved that we had a medium episode to review. It felt like a breath of fresh air just to have something that didn't offend me.
Yeah, so this is like where we would be in Voyager, where all of a sudden it's like, I do not know if this is an okay episode or if I'm just happy that I'm not getting raked over hot coals while someone slams my dick in a car door.
Yeah, like, okay, so none of our female cast members were sexually exploited. Archer doesn't act like a complete man-child.
Bitch.
And the decisions made by most everyone is contained within a sphere of logic that I can buy into. There's some continuity. Is this a C plus or a B? Is this a C minus or a B plus? I don't know, but I'm just satisfied I'm not getting kicked in the balls. Like, yeah, that's where I'm at with it.
Absolutely. So as I'm sitting there pondering what my true thoughts are, because now I'm tracking all the episodes, right? I've got my little chart. It's a 5-point chart. And then I try and like put a note how much action I felt was in it. I'm trying to calibrate my grading scale in my head on this. And if we go back to a theme that was more prevalent in the first season, which was like the building blocks of an away team mission, of setting up the core rules for what does it mean to trek through the stars as a Starfleet ship. If you frame this as a tentpole episode about how the Prime Directive came to be, you get some cool world building. If you're looking at this episode just as was this entertaining TV? Was this good TV?
There was enough going on that I felt engaged. I did not regret my experience watching it. I cared about the characters' feelings about things, but the feelings were very mild. Like, obviously the false stakes problem of a serialized show like this is always going to be present. So, like, are Archer and Reed ever in any real danger? No.
Let's talk that real quick. It's a small cast on this show. It's the same as Voyager, right? There's not a big secondary cast that we have been exposed to at this point. You're basically dealing with the bridge crew, just a sprinkling of Shran, and every couple of episodes you get to see Admiral Forrest, right? And that's
Basically,
about
yes.
it for the regulars.
And Ambassador Saval.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Now you contrast that with Next Gen, or specifically original series, and certainly we're not dealing with every episode's the heydays of Game of Thrones where anybody could die, right? Tasha Yar died. They swapped out Jadzia Dax or whatever. So it can happen, but you're not expecting it. Original series, red shirts, right? And I think that's what's really missing from Enterprise in terms of a lot of these plots is that, as we've said in Minefield and a couple of these, what was it, Dead Stop? Like, you knew Mayweather wasn't going to, as much as I wanted him just to be left behind with his brain getting sucked out through a straw, it's not going to happen. Had they been sprinkling red shirts in along the ways for them to die, I think that would have really addressed the suspension of disbelief that we're being asked on a lot of these episodes.
If it was like Fred Durst's or whatever, like the guy was named Durst, but remember he was in like one episode of Voyager and he kind of like established, he had a couple lines, he was a dude, and then he showed up in Faces with his face having been ripped off or whatever. And it's like, oh, I fucking knew that guy. He's dead now. So there's you feel it a little bit more because you're like, oh, I remember that guy from the prior episode, and now he's dead. That
Or
sucks.
just somebody said someone paid a price. There were stakes. They were realized to a certain level. Voyager, which was terrible for continuity and was terrible for any sort of lasting consequence, right? Photon torpedoes, inventory levels would change with the wind. We went through 600 shuttlecraft. Large swaths of the ship were blown up. They were fixed the next episode, whatever. But crew death was kind of that commodity. They never really recruited heavily from foreign or from alien species. You never saw the Kazon.
Right.
They didn't. There were 100. I don't know. There were dozens of characters that would have been great additions to the crew that they just simply didn't. So minus what was the evil Star Trek, or I'm sorry, the Starfleet that was burning up space cats to go?
Oh, the Equinox.
Equinox.
the UAC Tech Express.
That was the one example where they got a legit crew restock. And other than that, it was 100 or so people on the ship, maybe 120.
It was like 130 after you added in all of the Maquis people. And it's true. That is the one resource that Voyager spent somewhat responsibly and were consistent about. It was the manpower issue. Everything else was kind of disposable to the writer's room, but that was not. And listen, I don't need even you to have peril and stakes for the main characters that I know you're not going to kill off, or even background characters. I have to just care about what's going on in the story, and that there's tension, and then there could be like W's or L's handed out depending on what goes on. And that's kind of the spot where this episode doesn't quite get there. It tries. It makes an effort beginning, middle, and even at the end to try and convey that there are stakes beyond just do Archer and Reed survive, which they do. But I compare it to like an episode like Blood Oath from DS9, which I know you haven't seen, but like for those of you out there who have, like, that's an episode where Jadzia is not going to die, but there's a lot of shit that could be that's going on here, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens, right? Like, that's an episode that has stakes, and this one is trying to have stakes, and it just doesn't.
No. And to the end, just real quick, if there was crew that had been dying in the background or did die on it, because they do have strong continuity in Enterprise, those deaths can weigh on the characters.
Yeah, what if Crewman Cutler died? I mean,
Archer could be like, we need to have rules so we don't repeat these mistakes. Every time I think about this, I think about crewman so and so.
I agree.
And again, Voyager and Enterprise have a lot in common, and that is, it is the ship way the fuck out there. It is far away from home base. They can't just go back to Starbase and resupply easier. That was like the craziest part of this episode for me, is when we find out, like, yeah, they have not really been back home, I guess, if they have the things in their inventory, which we will find out when they're like, yeah, we got that cell shuttle. So I was like, what?
Yeah, where would they have left it? They still have it. They don't go back to Earth until the end of season 2. They're out there,
Yeah. So we open with them visiting another planet, and that is going to turn out to be what at first I assumed to be the planet of the 37s, because they're getting off that shuttle pod. Oh my gosh, what a vacation that was. That was so great. Did you see that architecture? What a rousing speech. Here's all this cool stuff that we conveniently didn't have to budget for at all. Oh, you need to go check it out.
It was Hoshi, it was Reed, and it was Archer. And it's a very sensible trio to bring down to what was apparently the observation of a pre-warp civilization. You've got Captain, you've got your tactical officer to, watch your back, and you have your translator that can help you understand the local language just in case your technology fails you. Perfect, right? And so they're all like going through, they get off of this shuttle pod. They go into their decontamination room. You don't have to see everyone with their clothes off. That's pretty
Why do you
nice.
think that is? Is it because it's not girl, girl, boy? It's boy, boy, girl?
Almost certainly.
Mm-hmm.
Almost certainly. Like, too much sausage. Moving along.
I like Flox's little naughty Porky's peephole that he can like peek in the room.
Yeah.
Spot.
Oh no! Everyone's got their clothes on.
Oh no,
Boo.
it's 2 guys and 1 girl. All right, you guys can get out. They are also in the process of. We'll find out that cosmetic surgery in Archer's time boils down to stickers.
It's just some latex. It's not surgery. It's just the makeup department.
Nope.
They are taking off all their gear, and that is when Malcolm, who was being very happy about the fact he got to do this, realizes he does not have his communicator. That is the plot. He does not have it, and when they cut back to the show, it is them, rooting for everything, making sure there wasn't something that is anywhere but on the planet, which they determined quickly to be the case, particularly after Hoshi goes back up to the bridge and narrows down, like, based on the readings, this is where it is.
Here's the infuriating part of this episode for me. Because Reed lost his phone, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
what do you do when you lose your phone?
You turn on Find My Phone.
You have your wife call your phone.
That's true. That is first
The
step.
fact they're like, I'm spending an hour plus looking around the decontamination room, tearing the shuttle pod apart, pulling this apart, checking behind these tables. Like,
Hoshi, call my communicator.
call the phone. Do you hear it chirping? No, fuck, it's down on the surface. That's all you got to do.
There's a classic trope here where Malcolm Reed, because we're both people who supervise people at our employment, and we both know the look on someone's face when they know they've fucked up, and they feel bad, and they don't like that they fucked up, and they're really fucking hard on themselves, and it's like, that it has, there's a certain level of endearing to it because you want people to always take ownership of their mistakes, but at a certain point you have to like tell them, like, I acknowledge that you are taking ownership, but we gotta fucking fix this problem. Like, you can flagellate yourself later. Like, got it. It's fine. We're in the situation we're in. Obviously, we all wish that this hadn't happened, but we got to move on because we got to fix it.
Right. So again, in the framework of a world builder episode, we got a lot of good stuff going on here. There's no procedure. There's no SOP yet for like checking equipment before the shuttle departs, for having some sort of protocol where left behind technology, once it gets X amount of miles away from the shuttle, will like self-detonate or, kill itself or whatever.
Melt, yeah.
How do we go back down and deal with this? And then we're going to start getting into like cultural contamination stuff. Also, real nice rich ore vein of I told you so's coming out of T'Pol through this thing. It's on the surface.
It's just some some classic season 1 Enterprise stuff, which is probably why this episode didn't suck total ass.
Put your finger on that, how season 1 of a Star Trek show can be markedly better than a season 2. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. Okay, we got to go back down. Hey, tell Phlox he needs to get that that little girl sparkle sticker book back out. We need some more. And I needed him to be like, I needed Phlox to be like, really? You couldn't have checked your pockets before you guys peeled all that shit off your head? You're having to go back over my easy bake oven and make all these extra foreheads? You motherfuckers.
Well, knowing Phlox, he's got like some fucking spider that looks like the mouth of 1,000 horrors that shits them out for him.
Yeah, that would be genre. So this time going back down, Hoshi's staying up in the top, and it's going to be Archer and Reed.
They set the shuttle pod down, and the planet is, I think, supposed to be in a pre-World War II, verge of World War II sort of era of technology.
Minus the fighter planes having laser guns.
The fighter planes having turbojet, they look like ME-262s. like those early like World War II scramjets, and they shoot what look like shitty lasers. But the ground troopers look like heavily discounted SS troopers,
Yes.
literally wielding German guns, because it was like an MP5 with a G3 stock and a drum magazine was like the rifle. It was a kit bashed actual gun that was actually all German guns. And these dudes are like very deeply like these are dollar store Nazis, but not
Yeah.
but without the like the they're dollar store stormtroopers. We'll say that because
Yeah.
there's no sense of ideology in this episode whatsoever. So I don't want to color them with Nazi. We have no idea if they actually have jackboots. These could be the good guys as far as we're aware.
Well, I'm gonna go based on the fact that they go so easily towards an execution to say that these guys.
No, the U.S. hangs spies in World War II. They hang spies. You hang spies in war. It's actually not the sign of villainy. In the Revolutionary War, they hung Major Andre.
I don't know if I can go down this. They go, well, I'll dispute your assertions a little later on. All right.
Okay, fair enough. There could be enough for villainy that we can say there's a jackboot there.
So they go down.
But me being sympathetic to a jackboot's fine. That's on brand.
They land the shuttle. They hoof it back over. There's a little pub that they had dinner in. That's where they think the communicator might be. They sit down at the booth they were supposed to. We notice that's the first time we see the local establishment, right? The low end grunts sitting at their own table, eating. I see their minimalist standing collars. I go, all right, we're dealing with space fascists, so I'm sure there's going to be some punching here very soon. There's an awkward looking exchange between Archer and Reed as like Archer tries to hide the fact that Reed just went under the table between his legs. Give him a little quick pre-dinner blowy. Oh no, Captain, I can't find it. It's not on the floor. That's when this nosy barkeep comes over and starts asking, hey, where's your hot friend at?
Yeah, like I guess there is female objectification, but it's in the absence. It's like I wanted to hit on this weird on this we don't have Asians in this planet, so I was very intrigued. They order some local liquor, but the bartender's like giving the high sign to the SS troopers that are at their table. They then Archer and Reed then get up from their table and walk into this random hallway where they think
past the beaded curtain.
Yeah, and then just like there's no one else around. It's the barkeep, it's the SS guys, and it's them. So they're just very obviously going in there and then very obviously coming out. And they don't go into the door where the communicator is because there's two people there. So they're like, oh, all right, well, let's go back to our table. And then they come out, and then the SS guys get up and like, it's time for a fight.
They go to walk back to the table. The military guys stand up. Archer kind of looks at Reed. And when I say kind of, like his head turns somewhat in Reed's directions. And then both Reed and Archer just lunge forward with punches and kicks at these guys and just totally assault the shit out of these guys before getting guns pulled on them and dragged back to the room where they thought the communicator was.
One, this is the worst version of the Inglourious Bastards bar scene of all time. That's basically what it is. And two, given that Reed has a gun, the fact that they decide to start punching these guys seems a bit odd.
I like in this episode that you can, and I think you can see Archer through the episode, just going back and replaying almost every action he took and being like, that there was so many better ways I could have done that. Like,
yes,
it's not comically stupid, the choices they make. But again, as a world builder, this is the first time we've been in this scenario. I think all of the mistakes are plausible and realistic.
Yeah. This is a tolerable version of Archer. This is Archer on a learning curve of like, no, there's no book on this. I got to figure out how to do this. And therefore, making mistakes and fucking up is perfectly reasonable because his actions are perfectly reasonable. But so the idea that he has Reed bring a gun Reed doesn't use it, and then they get captured and they get their communicators, their scanners, and Reed's gun taken from them. Is like we probably shouldn't have brought more stuff. Like we should have brought like one communicator and one scanner, and then like just in case we got fucking busted trying to get this thing. We're not like
Archer getting interrogated as they're pulling all of his shit out of his pockets, and now there's 2 communicators and all the other stuff. Like, well, that escalated quickly.
They have like a very brief discussion with him, and then like we'll take him away to be interrogated. But our proto space fascists have no idea what they're about to get themselves into because they intend to use punching Archer in the face as a method to get their way. Little do they know they are merely making his dick rock hard the entire time because that is this man's fetish.
Classic rookie mistakes on these nub space Nazis. Who is the guy who plays the sergeant?
Oh yeah, like the second in command Nazi. He seemed familiar. His voice in particular. His name was Tim Kellner. I believe you are remembering him from Survival Instinct. He was one of the Borg from the No Social Distancing.
That's what I knew him from. He's the one that wanted to go off and be an artist by himself. Because one guy just wanted to do drugs and screw hookers until he died. There was the Bajoran from Wolf 359, and then there was this guy who just missed his parents.
Yeah, he wound up like going to a planet to like just hang out amongst nature until he fucking died. But yeah, this guy has been on some episodes of Trek before, and he is the backup. He's the second in command Nazi in this. And
so they lay all this stuff out, and they're like, what is this stuff? And we are going to move into Archer's go-to de-escalation tool in this, which is just saying absolutely nothing. Which, again, I think the actions he takes, especially through these interrogations, are all pretty defensible. So they go, all right, off you go. We're going to send you to Camp Warhammer Minis. We get a sky view of the command center they're being taken to, and it just looks like someone has a Warhammer game they're playing, like a tabletop game, and this is like the cool environment they're going to stage soldiers all over.
Yeah, your Space Marine squad's going to totally get half cover behind this thing, and that's about all it means. So the B plot is actually a little intriguing, which is, of course, the jailbreak. Score 1 for jailbreaks here in Star Trek. And it is that they're like, okay, they've been captured. We figured out that they've been caught. What are we going to do? How are we going to bust them out of whatever fucking situation they're in without making things worse? And that one is when Trip is like, yo, hey, remember from the pilot of this show when we got that cool cloaking ship that we got from the Suliban? Remember that?
I didn't even remember that. I thought
I didn't remember it either. I'm like, yeah, I do remember that episode. You still have that? And he literally looks into the camera. Yes, I still have that. I've been working on it the whole time. Where else would it be but here?
I'm going to go on a ledge, and I'm going to say that Archer has in fact never filed a single fucking report with Forrest, because I have to think that if Starfleet knew that Enterprise had a fucking ship that could turn invisible and go fast as hell and have all this other sweet technology, he'd be like, yeah, why don't you go ahead and swing by Earth and drop that bad boy off?
Like, you don't have to stay. Just pop the trunk. We'll come out, we'll grab it, and you can just go. We're not trying to impede your progress here.
My mind is reeling.
All around.
I'm not going to go backwards through all of the previous episodes, but all the times they've gotten their asses kicked, or there's been some other dire circumstance where they have been outclassed or had to sneak past something, like jump to fucking Desert Crossing when they had to sneak down to the surface to go fucking rescue Arch. I mean, I guess it makes sense because Trip was on the surface there, but this was a hell of a fucking a card to pull out of your back pocket here. I'm dumbfounded that this thing's just been hanging around the Enterprise collecting dust.
I will put out to our trauma support group, since I've already pitched for people to join it this week. I will personally,
homework.
Yeah, no, I will personally purchase and ship to the member of the trauma support group a Vija Please sticker from Zivas.store, our storefront. The first member who can come up with
not the first, the best. Okay,
you're right. The best example, as judged by me and me alone. The because I'm the one buying it, so I get to choose. Example of the episode of Enterprise that came before this one, where this thing should have come up, where the fact that they still had this fucking thing should have come up. The best example of that gets the sticker of my choice shipped to their door, provided they want to provide their address. If you don't, you want it, to donate $5 to a charity or something, that's fine. But there it is. One sticker available to one of our fans. Go. I believe in all of you. Probably not all of you, actually. I believe in like 18, 19 of you. Like the ones that I think are like deep. One of you are going to get it.
You're going to set a time limit on this so all the people listening to this 6 years from now know that they're not eligible?
Yeah, it would not eligible after the year 2022.
So yeah, my jaw's on the floor as I'm watching him disclose that they not only do they have this fucking ship, but he can kind of get the cloak to work. Yeah. And let's just flesh out the B plot real quick. He grabs Mayweather. They go down. They start trying to work on this thing.
Mayweather, unfortunately, has lines this week, which is just a real downgrade.
I didn't think anything he did was offensive in this.
It wasn't offensive, but he had that like terrible like joke after Trip's arm gets cloaked. Like, it'll be coming handy when you come, if you ever get a date to come with you to movie night.
Well, I think if you've got an invisible hand, you don't need a date anymore. You've got the perfect stranger going right there.
Well, no, your cock is still visible. It's just
I know, but you can't see your hand, so it's a stranger.
Oh, okay. All right.
So that was a big red herring for me. Okay, so what happens is Trip's trying to get this thing to work. He goes in there, he takes a butter knife, he jams it in the electrical socket. There's a huge wave of energy, and the shuttle like hits a toolbox and his right arm with some fucking gamma radiation, only instead of turning into the Hulk, his arm and his jumpsuit turn invisible. And I'm like, well, okay, clearly in this episode, certainly they can't get this ship to work because that would just be ridiculous. This thing's been laying around, the super attack stealth fighter. So what they're going to do is they're going to like jerry rig this ship to like finish hitting Trip and turn Trip into the Invisible Man. And we're going to have like an Invisible Man jailbreak. And there'll be like comedy beats and like keys floating through the air and like
very cheap effect. Very cheap.
Some real Gilligan's Island shit's going to go on. I'm like, all right, I could go for some fucking laughs. Let's do this. But they don't. And they, even at the end, when they get into the fucking gunfight and Trip's there behind a fucking barricade and he's shooting with his right hand, I'm like, dude, take the glove off, roll your sleeve up. You could have like stealth gun around the corner. Like, you've got this
floating gun. Yeah.
Yes. Phantom limb, man.
I was actually expecting that. I was like, did I, I'm like, I don't remember if there was a phantom gun moment in this fight. Maybe there was.
What were the special effects of a floating gun just too much?
They just cash this little comedy beat in. They're just like, aha, Trip has a mishap. His arm is cloaked. Phlox really can't do anything. He's like,
Phlox says, yeah, you just got
wear a glove, bro. I don't know what to tell you. You're cloaked, I guess.
You got hit with a bunch of radiation. Your arm's invisible, and you're probably going to die really young. I'm sorry.
I mean, you do work next to an unregulated nuclear reactor, an experimental unregulated nuclear reactor every fucking day.
I meant to ask you, where's the warp core actually at in Enterprise? I tried looking for some schematics, like real half-assed. Is it the thing like between?
It's the long tube. It's that big long tube that's, instead of it being standing up, it's laid out.
I know, but on the ship, is it on the ship proper? Or is it that little like island towards the back between the
So
nacelles?
there's a spot in the secondary hull that's like circular
Mm-hmm.
in the back, and that is where it's supposed to be. That's my understanding.
Okay, so it's separate from the saucer.
Correct. Is in the secondary hull ish part. There's a little secondary hull part.
Okay,
As far as I'm aware, that is where it's supposed to be.
gotcha.
It's not a fully developed secondary hull. It's just got this one piece, and that's
Yeah.
That's what I understand.
Like a little tab.
Yeah.
Eventually, they'll get the ship. No, well, we'll get to that because that's another good comedy beat. We cut back over to Camp Warhammer. And again, it's hard to really put your thumb on what time frame they're supposed to be in because you've got fighter jets with laser guns. You've got like some World War II era fascist dudes. And then their base has like this weird Pirates of the Caribbean jail cell. Smooth sandstone, big imposing iron grates.
Would not hold Jack Sparrow under any circumstance.
Right. And no consideration whatsoever between Reed and Archer. Like, do you think they have this place bugged? As they're sitting there like, gosh, what are we going to do to hide the fact that we're aliens? And all this other crazy stuff. Like, anytime in Star Trek these guys just openly talk, no fucks to give, I'm just like, man, come on.
No security cameras in Voyager, no bugs in prisons.
You've got these huge bars that like you could throw a football through, and there's a guard standing not that far away. Archer and Reed aren't even like hushed tones. Interestingly, though, the universal translator maintains through this whole thing, even after their communicators are taken far away from them.
Well, that's a plot hole. That's just the straight plot hole.
Yeah.
Once their communicators are no longer on their person, that should not function for them anymore. That should have been the sign that Reed didn't have his. That's just the plot hole, man. They just forgot that's how it was supposed to work. Oopsies. Oopsie doopsies.
Yeah.
Well, then again, like, let's go back. Oh, look, it's Rick and Brannon again. The ones who wrote it. Like, it's your canon, boys. You're not going to remember. No one else is.
There's a little conversation between Reed and Archer here where they go, all right, what's the game plan? We can't say that we're space people, so we'll kind of lean into this. We'll play the silent game and we'll see how that shakes out for us. They get dragged off. They got to go meet the commandant, the leader guy. His name's Gosis. I'm looking at this guy's Memory Alpha wiki. I got some bad news for you, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Leader guy, we've seen him before. He was Czar from Live Fast and Prosper, which not bad.
That's a good episode.
Then he was Minister Cray in one of the all-time worst, Ex Post Facto.
Ugh. No!
This guy is a for real shithead. Yeah. He's in the penalty box big time.
Well, at least Detective Tuvok was nowhere near this.
They bring him in. He goes, hey, which one of you is the captain? Because, spoiler alert, they finally tried calling your phone. Just so happened I was playing with it, and I heard T'Pol asking for the captain. So the jig is up. You guys are spies. You must be a part of the, what do you call them, the rebellion?
Whatever. The opposite side.
You're the clear, other guys.
Yeah, you're clear whatever the other dudes are. And they don't say anything. Archer gets all of his head wounds, and he's like, nah, you truly are only unlocking my true power. And the kayfabe they come up with is, instead of telling them the truth, because Archer is very much in the zone of, we cannot contaminate their culture any further. We can't tell them aliens are real. What are we going to tell them? The beating, the head wounds do reveal that that's just latex and that they bleed
slapped
red
so hard that what happens is Archer's boner swipes his own forehead.
Yes, it's just his rock hard erection intimidates all the aliens such that, like, no one on this planet has a dick that big. Clearly, you must be some sort of stranger from another planet. and they like do scans and put them in the MRI machine. They're like, again, you've got 2 kidneys, you're missing 4 vertebra, like you've got iron in your blood. What the fuck is with that? Like, this is bullshit. And the kayfabe they go with is that they're genetically engineered super soldiers, which was pointed out to be like, we came up with the Silabon thing. That's what we did. We're like, what was that like with them? That was just kind of what's on our mind.
We're gonna get saved in their spaceship. We might as well just ride that same train.
Go the whole distance. I like that was just them riffing of like, we're genetically engineered super soldier spies. Fuck. I mean, we've run into those. It's a thing. The drama comes when Archer and Reed are confronting the very real possibility to them that they could wind up dead, hanged, in fact, brutal, as spies, just to prevent further direct contamination of the civilization in hand, by revealing that aliens are real. And Reed has clearly shown his willingness to die for the mission.
Yeah, I got that.
A couple times.
Reed, I'm not afraid, sir. Yeah, no shit. You were like begging me to let you float off and get blown up by a Romulan mine. Yeah. I know you have a death wish.
Dude, you tried to kill your pants because you didn't want to talk to me. Like, this is nothing.
We need to quit hanging out together. We've been in many life-threatening situations. Like, this is 3 within the same paycheck. We need to just chill out. Yeah, so Dr. Packled, that's their chief, like, resident Dr. Mengele. This guy looks like a fucking Packled.
That's true, he does.
They're all sitting around like, oh my god, look how grotesque they are. Like you said, he's got kidneys and this other stuff. They try to sell him on, and that's basically Archer's damage control. Like, oh fuck, we've really been found out now. All right, I'm going to acquiesce. Yeah, we are spies, we're super soldiers, this other bullshit. Get him out of here, because the Dr. Packled's like, hey, these guys are aliens. And Minister Shithead goes, we've got satellite photos of your spaceship, and he starts putting together what's going on. And that's why Archer makes this, no, we really are spies, and you're silly, and we're basically your worst fears that the enemy guys are more technologically advanced. That's all real. Like, they recognize it by the end too. Like, they almost do more damage with the lie than they would have by telling the truth. They're like, all right, get them out of here. We gotta talk more. And that's when Dr. Packled's like, basically, you should let me dissect them. They're not being executed because they're spies. This is why these guys are evil. They're being executed so they can study their organs.
The episode's climax is the leading of Archer and Reed to the gallows. The literal, like, there are nooses ready to hang them, like they're
very fancy, poured concrete. These are efficient gallows. There's a lot of tech in these things.
Like, they do some hanging here, I guess. And they're executing them like they've betrayed the Night's Watch. And they're just gonna fucking string them up. And, they're going up the steps. Archer's like, no, you don't have to kill Reed. And he's like, yes, I do. I was an ex post facto. I must make up for this by killing the worst actor on your show.
Oh.
And, I'm sorry, Mayweather's not there. And they lead him up the steps. And that is when the rescue begins. I will note that T'Pol is like, finds out that the execution is going to happen. And it just like goes right down to the shuttle bay and is like, Trip, get it ready. We're going. If the captain's about to be executed, we're fucking going with whatever your fucking plan is. There is no like discussion of we have to let them die. It is, let's ride. We're bailing them out. That's happening.
There's also the Bran / Rick Berman. There's only 8 minutes left of the episode. We need to wrap this bitch up now. Remember that B plot about how they can't get the cloak to work? Throw that in the trash. That ship, the cell ship, everybody piles in. There's 3 now. It's
I mean, it fit Debo and Archer.
There's 3 people in the ship. It is shooting out of Enterprise. cloaking as it's going down. Zero fucking dialogue as to what Hail Mary Trip pulled to get this fucking thing to work. For all intents and purposes, as far as that scene's concerned, that was worked out like half an hour ago, and that's been working peachy. So,
well, I mean, it does fuck up on the way down.
yeah, but
so
they
it's-
turn it on like before they can like get the door to turn invisible. Now the whole fucking thing's invisible. I'm like, well, I guess that plot line's over. Also, real quick, zero discussion as to using the transporter yet again. That's becoming a real thing, I've noticed. Like,
yeah, just no. There is an episode in this season where transporter use gets specifically used as a plot device again that I think you'll like. It's one of the better episodes of the season.
that's not hard based on what
But
we've seen.
yeah,
So they fly down there. Right as they got the nooses on them, they're about to die. There's a big noise. A door slowly opens up. There's a bright light, just invisibility. I'm sorry, it's just a regular scene until a white door opens, and I'm like, oh, here comes Al to hang out with Samuel Beckett to Quantum, because it looks like the door to the fucking holographic imaging chamber when Dean Stockwell would walk through in Quantum Leap. Nope, it's just a Florida man popping out. That's where I thought the invisible arm was going to come out and start zapping.
Yeah, like just start zapping and be like, holy shit, what the fuck is this? It's just an invisible gun shooting at us.
So someone got some studio notes from CBS or whoever the fuck was in charge, UPN, I guess, that said, your gunfights suck. Please give us a good gunfight. And
they do. For Star Trek, this is an excellent gunfight. There's a lot of, that pose, the dramatic pose of like coming out from cover, but instead of like staying in cover and then like just having only a little piece of you actually revealed, instead you like come out and you're like your whole body comes out and you like reach across your whole body to like dramatically shoot.
Flourish your pistol
like it's a fucking rapier. Like they do that over and over again. It is a little much, but makes it for a more interesting scene. Like, and I'll say this, Trip and T'Pol, they are good shots. They are capping these fucking discount Nazis left and right. Like, boop, 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 boop.
Also,
like,
real quick, I'd like to mention that, and it wouldn't matter by the end because they're going ape shit with the phasers here anyways, but I did like the Nazis like looking at Reed's phase pistol and like blowing a hole in the wall and be like, wow, we are fucked.
Do they have a bunch of these? Oh no. That's not good at all.
There's no real clear advantage I feel like Starfleet has here other than maybe the element of surprise. They shoot like 18 people. Nobody gets hit with any bullets at all. Again, silly scope of consequences here, but whatever. Everybody gets gunned down. They're going to dip out. And then Archer and we were like, well, we got to go get our stuff real quick, which was ordered to be kept under heavy guard because like this is the hottest shit on the whole planet, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a pre-nuclear bomb society that just got access to fucking death rays. They go back into Camp Warhammer, instantly know where the fucking room is where the stuff's being kept. It's not in a safe. That's technology that the Nazis don't have. They don't have the power of steel boxes. All the shit's just laying out on the table like free coffee at an AA meeting. There's one guy in there guarding, and he's like looking in the corner, playing with himself. They come in, they zap his ass, swoop up everything on the table, run
the
back
autopsy photos, the communicators, the scanners, and the phase pistol. It's all on this table. Every quest objective is just right there, and they're like, "Wait, we out."
It is the antithesis of any Resident Evil game. All of the plot items are right there. There's not even like a moat with sharks, or they didn't have to put a single jewel into a family crest to unlock the door. They soup everything. They run off. They jump back in. I'm assuming all the phase pistols were just set to stun and not kill.
Yeah, that seems obvious.
And there's Minister Shithead, Commandant Goasis or whatever his name is, watching everybody pile into a invisible door, and then the ship take off. And I'm like, man, this is terrible. They just fucked up. They might as well just. I did like back in the jail cell where they're kind of like, they've almost resigned themselves to dying, and they're like joking around a little bit. Archer's like, we could kidnap the commander and bring him up to Enterprise. I could give him the grand tour. We could wine him and dine him and show him everything. And it's like basically the go-to every time in Next Gen they had to like break Prime Directive and bring someone up and show them like, this is the future. This is the ship. This is what you guys could ascend to. And he's like shitting all over it. But they fly off and contaminate the fuck out of that culture. There's a little wrap-up scene at the end where Archer's beating himself up a little bit, rightfully so. T'Pol comes in, he's like, yeah, it's a good thing we got all that back. And she's like, yeah, no, we fucked up like big time.
Yeah, like there's a little come to Jesus over it of like, yeah, like we didn't leave them super tech, but we still convinced them that their enemies have genetically engineered super soldiers with ray guns and cloaked fighter jets. Like that's not good either.
Like we probably just started a fucking war. Like those guys are definitely going to start putting their enemies in everything.
Some motherfuckers are going to get hanged. It's
not going to be pretty. Those are going to be a 3-shift operation here.
they're gonna install more efficient gallows.
We can now hang 3 people at once, and we kind of wrap up there. So the action sequence was uncharacteristically good for Enterprise, if not Star Trek as in general. The ending was comically bad, but comically bad in like an enjoyable way. And overall, yeah, like as a world builder, I thought this was a strong one. As just, is it good TV? I'd put it as meh, but certainly after the fucking shit we've been slogging through, this was a welcome fire to camp up next to for an episode.
This is the kind of campy, low rent, mid to early 2000s network TV shit I'm in for. Like when I wanted to watch Enterprise, this was the kind of thing where I'm like, okay, this is fine. This is fine. Like I can get by with this. This is perfectly cromulent Star Trek. And I don't know if it's the beating on the head and face we've taken watching fucking Carbon Creek.
Carbon Creek wasn't even bad, man.
You're right. Production-wise, that episode was not bad. It was just completely out of place.
Out of place.
Night in Sick Bay, Marauders, The Seventh. Like those 3, man. Like, whew, that was a lot to get through to get to this. And this was fine. This was perfectly fine. And I'm hoping we get a little bit of a break from the brutality. Like, I know there's some bad shit to come in season 2. There is this episode that is, I think it's called Precious Cargo, that is coming up. That is just
sounds like a children episode. I don't want to watch it.
No, it's got someone with the acting ability of a child. So that
oh, Garrett's got
Garrett Wang shows up. Yeah, it's amazing. There's some bad episodes left here in season 2. I will say it does pick up close to the end. People are pointing out regeneration, and then the last few episodes after that are very good, and I do agree. But oh man, after the, what do you want to call the trilogy of terror of Enterprise, right? Like Night in Sickbay, Marauders, The Seventh. That was real rough.
Trilogy of turds.
Trilogy of turds. I like that too.
Was The Seventh really that bad?
It fucking was, dude. Like Senator Kelly was in it, and we certainly had fun taking it apart.
Yeah, that's
it was
what's
not
murking
good.
It up, is that we had some good laughs at its expense. Yeah, that 2 is a rough season. We're going to be moving into season 2, episode 9, though, which is Singularity. Upon approaching a black hole, the crew starts exhibiting strange behavior and is uncharacteristically obsessive over trivial matters. Sounds kind of cool.
We'll have some more space madness action here. Haven't
Been
done
a
that
while.
in a while. Yeah.
Here's what's going to be interesting for me on this one. I'm looking at the production notes. This one is written by Chris Black and directed by Patrick Norris. No mention of Braga or Berman. So I want to see.
Haven't any too many of absent of them. Yeah.
So I want to see if what we're getting once these guys are cut out of the picture at the stage.
Agreed, sir. And we will watch that together. We will review that together, and I'll be giving away a sticker by myself, not with you. And thanks for listening to Future Please, and we'll see you next week.